that was the scene, 6 o'clock this morning, the 70th running of the Comrades Marathon outside Pietermaritzburg City Hall. 13,500 hopefuls lined up for the 90.7 kilometer slog all the way to Durban. A hot day, but they were anxious to get going. Lots of excitement. And the traditional cock crow of Max Trimborn. Everybody waiting very anxiously for the gun to go. Sets them off. 90.7 kilometers ahead of them, the down run, and in the second half of the race, lots and lots of downhill to test those legs and the strength of those muscles. A really difficult task ahead of them, not to mention all the favorites in there. From Russia, Santilov, Alexei Volgin, the world record holder, and the local heroes, Nick Bester, Sean Mickeljohn, Charles Matthias, Rasta Mashloli. They were all in there, looking for gold, looking for first place, and perhaps the needle amongst all these runners today was the competition between the South Africans, who were denied victory for the last couple of years, and the overseas runners. The South Africans gung-ho, looking for a victory this year to upstage their more illustrious and perhaps more favourite opponents from overseas.
And as the sun came up, the crowds made their way along the long journey to Durban. Many favourites amongst the ladies too, and Trazen was just one of those. She'd been suffering with a minor stomach ailment during the week, and it was interesting to see how she would do on the long slog down to Durban.
Well, she certainly went out hard and put a lot of space between herself and the rest of the ladies' field, while up front the men were having their own sort of battle. It was Nzimande, Mabani and Nkobo, the early leaders, but all eyes on Sean Mickeljohn. He'd set out to win this race, and he was trying to get in touch with the leaders, with him Livingston Chibonga running all the way down. This was in the first half, just before Drummond.
Chasing hard just before the halfway mark was Maria Buck of Germany, another top contender of the overseas contingent.
Meanwhile, up front, it was Aaron Nzimande, the local runner, who went through the halfway mark in the lead, down at Drummond. The big accompaniment and huge crowd support, which in fact was a feature of this race today. Thousands upon thousands of people turned out to watch the 70th Comrades Marathon, and they were never disappointed. Out of Drummond, they went up the hill, Mickeljohn chasing hard and making up ground to get in touch with that second bunch. Nzimande in the lead was Fit 2000 Charles Matthias, also looking for a win this year. Both Matthias and Mickeljohn were looking very strong at this stage, but further back in the ladies' race, there was all sorts of drama.
And Trazen had led the ladies through the halfway mark, but it was Joanne Parrott, runner-up in the Two Oceans, who was in all sorts of trouble at the halfway stage.
That was the end of Parrott's race, and she was carried off at the halfway mark in Drummond. Very sad exit for one of the Cape Town hopefuls.
Further ahead, and Trazen was in all sorts of trouble. Having been passed by Maria Buck of Germany and Helene Joubert, she was now reduced to a walk. And former gold medalist Colin Goosen was on hand to try and help her and encourage her to get going once again. But the tears were flowing, the disappointment was there, and the stomach bug had had its final say.
And Trazen was yet another victim, pulling out of the race just around the halfway mark. Couldn't make it. And the real battle amongst the men was taking shape. As the race developed, two men pulled clear, Charles Matthias and Sean Mickeljohn. And with now 10 kilometers remaining, there was a huge gap between these two and the rest of the field. Third was Mashloli, then we had Volgin and Masongo, but all eyes were on the two of them. Would we have a sprint finish? These two were close together, less than 10 seconds separating them as they went up towards Tollgate and the finish. At this stage, Matthias was in the lead, Mickeljohn chasing hard. Mickeljohn had been the stronger of the two on all the hills. Matthias knew this, and he was desperate to stay ahead over those last 4 or 5 kilometers running into the finish. But it wasn't to be. Slowly but surely, Mickeljohn reeled him in, and perhaps the man with a stronger mind and a greater will to win was heading for a victory. He caught Matthias at the top of the Tollgate hill, and he went past. And he went past with great certainty, determination, not a word passed between them. And very little now stood between Sean Mickeljohn and his first Comrades victory.
Maria Buck heading for a comfortable victory in the women's race, well clear of Helene Joubert and the Russian Valentina Shatieva, the world 100-kilometer champion.
Alzira Lario in 4th place, Debbie Minton in 5th, and it wasn't the overseas whitewash that we'd expected. Not two either in the men, and the incredible crowd support down Pine Street at the finish, with Mickeljohn getting away now, less than a minute still separating the first two, and a tremendous battle between these two as they headed for the Kingsmead cricket ground and the finish. And onto the grass he went, clutching the mayoral message. Sean Micklejohn running in the Mr. Price Club, receiving the accolades of 20,000 people, the first Natal victor since 1979. And at last a smile. Was it the victory, or was it his wife standing at the finish line, pregnant with their first child? A happy day for the Micklejohns, and a worthy winner, the time under 5 hours 35 minutes.
The closest finish in many a year since the great days of Tommy Malone and Marnie Kuhn. Just 59 seconds separating Charles Matthias and Sean Micklejohn. A great run by both of these two fantastic athletes.
Charles Matthias even managing a sprint at the finish, and it was such a pity that both couldn't win. They'd given their all, they'd given the best. Micklejohn Matthias. Third was Volgan at the finish. Mashloli picked up fourth. Gary Turner moved through to pick up the fifth place, 5:42. Then we had Masongo, Linda Q, Matlala Bester, and Theo Rafiri making out the 10th gold.
Maria Buck on her way to a fantastic victory by some 20 minutes or so. A fantastic time by Maria Buck from Germany, a very popular winner at Kingsmead.
And the domination of the overseas ladies continues. Maria Buck picked up where the Russians left off last year, but they were there further back in the pack. But this year it was the chance of the German athlete.
And one of the highlights for the visiting athlete from Germany, Maria Buck, was a meeting with President Nelson Mandela. An emphatic victory for the 36-year-old Buck. The best performance in the Comrades amongst the ladies since the heyday of Frith van der Merwe. Other fine performances by Helene Joubert, Valentina Chatieva in third, and Sinette Bierkes in fourth.